Given this graph, where is the graph decreasing? Well, it's when I can draw this downward. And it's between these two marks here, which is x equal -3 and x equal, it looks like, positive 1/2. And this I'm going to have to move to a separate sheet of paper, because this one's going to be a little bit more work. I'm going to take the last sheet that I used to move it down. And it says find all the zeros of that function. Well, the first thing that you want to do is you want to get your possibilities. Possibilities. And this is problem number 14. And I'm looking at back divided by front, which is 15 divided by 16. Factors of 15 are plus or minus 1 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and we're going to go to 15. It's going to be a lot of them, so we're going to choose our numbers carefully. And of the front, we have 1 and 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I think we're going to be to 16. So if I'm going to make my list, it's going to be, let's start with 1, 3, 5, 15, and let's do some fractions just in case. 1/2, 3 halves, 5 halves, 15 halves, etc. I'm going to see if we can find something. So I'm going to take my handy dandy little calculator, and it looks like we've got some shining from my dining room table, but I think we still can see it. And under the y equal menu, I'm going to put 16x cubed minus 32 x squared minus 53x plus 15. And then I'm going to do a zoom standard or a zoom 6. See if I can get in my graphing window. And it looks like 3. And let's see if 3 is one of them. So remember, we do trace and then type in 3. And it gave me a 0. So 3 is one of them. So I'm going to start out with that guy. So x equal 3 is a 0 from my calculator. So that take 3 divided out of 16 minus 32 minus 53 plus 15. Bring down the 16. 3 times 16 is 48. That gives me a 16. Times 16 is 48. That gives me 16, correct? And then 3 times 16 is 48. That gives me -5. And then 3 times -5 is -15. 0. So that tells me I do have a 0. This is the coefficient of x squared and x and constant. So this is going to be 16x squared plus 16x minus 5 equals 0. That's going to give me my other two zeros. Now they could be very nice numbers or not. I personally am not going to try to factor this thing. I'm going to take the lazy way out. I'm going to use the quadratic formula so that x is going to be equal to minus 16 plus or minus the square root of 16 squared minus 4 times a, which is 16, times c, which is negative 5, all over 2 times a, which is 16, so that x is negative 16 plus or minus the square root of, using my handy dandy little calculator, 576 all over 32, which is minus 16 plus or minus, that is a perfect square, believe it or not, which means it would have factored. So that means that x is minus 16 plus 24 over 32, which is 8 over 32, or 1 over 4, and x is negative 16 minus 24 over 32, which is negative 40 over 32, or negative 5 over 4. So I have 3 zeros, 3, 1/4, negative 5/4. So transfer that over to my answer. On my answer blank, I'll have 3, 1/4, negative 5/4. Use the rational zeros theorem to list all the possibilities. Sometimes things are a pain. That's why I gave you 2 hours on this exam. So back divided by front, the back is a 2 and the front is a 3. So it's going to be plus or minus 1 plus or minus 2 divided by plus or minus 1 plus or minus 3, which is going to give me plus or minus 1 plus or minus 2 plus or minus 1/3 plus or minus 2/3. So the way they're going to want you to list them is going to be plus or minus 1 will be 1. I'm going to put the negative first. Negative 1 and 1. And then negative 2 and 2. And then negative 1/3 and 1/3. Then negative 2/3 and 2/3. So they need to be separated by commas when you put them into the machine. Next problem says the plot is below of that particular problem, and based on the graph, which are the possible ones? Well, 0 is right here, and it's between 0 and negative 1, and it might be negative 1/3, but it's a little further along. So more than likely, the likely 0 is going to be negative 2/3.